Welcome to Using Assets in Your Game in the Unity 5 Gameplay course by PAC Publishing. In this video, we're going to discuss the use of game objects in your game. We will begin with a quick overview of game objects and then examine game object properties. We will conclude with a look at game objects in game mode. You hear the term game object used frequently. That should come as no surprise. You cannot have a Unity game without game objects. In fact, your game is comprised of game objects. Not everything in your Unity game is a game object, but most visible elements are. If a component of your game has transform properties, then you know it is a game object. Once selected, the inspector view will display the transform properties if the selected element is a game object. Okay, let's launch Unity. Here's our game project in Unity, and you can see when I select any object, the inspector view displays the transform. That tells us it's a game object. So let's look at this specific game object that we have selected. As you can see in hierarchy view is called a prefab build small house tall roof 01. You can look at the subordinate components to that, and we have small house tall roof 01, and then we have the dragon head that's on the top of the roof. As you can see, as I select each one of these components, the selection changes in scene view and the inspector view is updated accordingly. But we can see that this building does not have the door as a separate component. So when we put this in game mode and walk down to that building, we'll run right into it and the door will not open. And that's because it's one big complete mesh, not a separate component. If it were a separate component, you would see door located here as a subordinate unit to the main house itself. So let's look at another component here. Let's click on this barrel right here. We see that this barrel, when we look in the hierarchy view, is called barreled fish 01, and it has 3 fish objects in it. And one of the things we can do with objects is we can duplicate them. I'm going to simply click Control C on that fish and then hit paste. And here's our PF fish 01. Let's just quickly rename that my fish. And we can leave that there or drag it around. You can see in the inspector view the name has been updated. What we want to do is select the transform tools. We want to put that where we can see it. Move it out of the barrel. We want to put it here on the path. And let's make it larger. It's a very large fish. And then we'll make sure that it's visible when we start our game. We'll make it just a little bit bigger. Okay, so you can see that the transform tools have been updated based on size and position. We'll put this in game mode and we'll see there's our fish as we come up close to it and walk right through it. Let's take this out of game mode and let's put that fish closer to the ground. We'll make it larger still. And with that fish selected, you can see the properties in inspector view. So we have the transform, which shows us the location, the orientation or rotation of the game object. We have the scale based on the original object, as you can see, roughly 6 times larger. And you can see the mesh that it uses, mesh render is there, and the material is there as well. And you can see the details there for us. All right, so let's put this in game mode. And we should see a very large fish in our path. And there it is. So what can we do with game objects? Well, we can place them, we can replicate them, we can even assign scripts to them. We do that with the object selected and over in inspector view, I'm going to click add component. And you can see here is scripts. So we can select several of these that are already available, or we can create our own script. In this section, we explored importing and using assets in Unity. This included a look at 2 different methods for getting assets into our game that were created with non-native tools. Specifically, we used Unity's import functionality and a direct method with a drag and drop mechanic. We also discussed game objects and then looked at their properties and how to use them in our games. Next up, scripting your game.